Oh, you were saying so. I mentioned that these
Hmm.
are some factual information that you can actually go and research.
Yeah,
Okay, and there's solid proof that these
appreciate that.
things are there. You see what I'm saying? And also, even like recently they talk about UFOs and or
Hmm.
what they refer to as robot. Yeah, they refer to as now what's it called a phenomenon, something phenomenon. They've got
I know the phrase. I can't remember it myself.
unidentified aerial phenomena. Yeah, that's the
UAPs, is it?
UAPs, exactly. So what you got to realize is when we teach in Wu-Sabat is that the master teachers try to link up several things.
Hmm.
So within religion, they talk about Ezekiel's will,
Hmm.
and they talk about Daniel and the chariots of fire and all of these things that have, left this world's realm, this planet's realm, and then transition into outer space and left. Okay. Now,
Yeah,
when you bring it down to modern day times, those would be your UFOs. Yeah.
yes.
That Daniel and Ezekiel's will was describing. The
Mhm.
fact is that because they didn't have the descriptive knowledge of what these beings were, they referred to them as angels or wheels of fire or
Yeah,
chariots of fire because what they could only explain in their realm was
mhm.
something that would be likened onto that particular thing that they knew of. Do you
Got you.
understand? Like
Yes.
another example is when you have the Native Americans or the American Indians, when they saw the first train, they referred to
Hmm.
that as iron horse. You with me?
Mm.
Yeah,
Yeah.
the iron horse, we know that as a train, but to them, that was a vehicle that was moving that could
Hmm.
travel as fast as a horse, but it's made of
Hmm.
iron. So it's called
Got
an
you.
iron horse. So the name appellations to certain things that they could not explain is why we came up with certain terms like Ezekiel's rule and etc. So
Yeah.
now what the master teacher has been explaining is that these are extraterrestrials or beings that are from a different advanced civilization who have
Hmm.
come here thousands of years ago and for many various reasons have set up on this planet. Okay.
Yeah.
So now when he was saying this in the 70s, mind you, the minds of the people then thought he was
Hmm.
crazy.
Mm.
You
Mm.
with me?
Yeah.
Now the solid proof is here because
Yes.
now NASA, the USA government, China, and what else is Russia have announced or publicly announced
Yeah.
that they exist.
Hmm.
So who's crazy now?
Indeed. Indeed.
You know what I'm
I
saying?
appreciate that. Thank you very
Yeah,
much, man.
that's okay, my
That's
bro.
helpful. I've got one more question.
Yeah, go ahead.
And that's, obviously I'm a man myself, and
I
like
hope so.
parents. Yeah, yeah, for real, true that. Um, if like you're a parent, I'm a parent of four children. I've been married for 27 years.
Congratulations.
Hey, thank you, man.
Mm,
Um, and like, if I say to my children, like, do as I say, don't do what I do,
mm.
that's not really that good. That's not really a good way of teaching. The
Yeah,
best way of teaching is obviously through exampleship.
that's right.
And I can't really expect my children to say do better than the example I set, as opposed to say the things that I do.
Mm,
So from like an example perspective, I'm just thinking about like how like of Malachi York's life in terms of like say I understand that he parented 100 children, but
mm,
and I might be totally wrong in this, right? I
mm.
read this somewhere that like he like encouraged couples like to do a way of interacting with each other where they would see each other every 3 months off according to like a kind of Islamic model. Now, I don't know if that's accurate. You could correct me on that. That's just something I read. Um, in
From
term,
where did you read that? Where's that source
I
coming?
read that on Wikipedia.
Oh,
That might,
okay.
so that might not be
Wrong source.
factual.
Yeah,
What I'm saying? That might be
yeah,
factual.
yeah.
Um, but I guess what I'm trying to say is that from an example perspective,
Mm,
um, if say like obviously I've raised four children and I'm married to one woman,
yeah,
if like say I was to take Malachi York's example and say right, I'm a try and see if we can work on 100 children out here.
yeah.
How what would be the model? Like, is it like a polygamous model? Would I marry all the women that I would impregnate to be able to do that situation? Would
Right.
I would I be looking for women who, say, for example, were how would I convince like really women who are in their really right mind, you know what I'm saying? They're not young, they're not impressionable, do you know what I'm saying? That
Yeah, yeah.
um setting up and having kids with me,
Mm,
I'm going to be able to look after you and raise these kids and stuff and everything. What's a good example that I can take from that in
mm.
terms of as a man, like if I'm going to call if I'm going to call Malachi your master teacher, and I
Mm,
want to learn from his example more than simply his words, as powerful as they are.
mm.
Um, how would you help me to understand how to live his example to maybe think
What, his
about having
example
a
of
hundred
having more
children?
than one, of having more than one wife and children, or his example as in that
Mhm,
when he's teaching about raising yourself and cleaning yourself inside out and outside
mhm,
in and learning to speak your own language, is that the
mhm.
example you mean, or is it just about the fact that he has four wives and that he has X amount of children?
I think I'm thinking more in terms of the example of like from a lifestyle perspective, so that I can
Okay.
create a life replicable. How do I
Wait,
follow
okay.
that example?
I mean, you can't really walk in that being's shoes because the sacrifices you'd have to make will be many. You with me?
Hmm.
Because it's not all his children that are like, let's just say, loving him. Do you know what I mean? There's children that are have got gruntal, disagreements, etc. With whatever reason. I don't know, and I'm not privy to that, but I know that some children will have been born and their parents have also made them not like their father for whatever
Hmm.
reasons. He also hasn't been there for all of his children, which he's actually publicly, said that he's apologized for that because in loving his children, he would have to love all of us because he came for all of us. So he sees all of us as his children. Do you understand? So in that aspect also there's contention with his children and not being loved in the way that they've wanted or felt to be loved. You see,
I
so
mean,
it's very hard for you to have a comparison or live in those particular shoes. Remember, he's
I mean,
been sent here as a warning
yeah.
and guide,
I mean,
you
his
know.
children are not the key like thought because obviously he's been in prison for a long time. So I know that he
Yeah,
wouldn't necessarily have the time to have relations. I'm
that's
more
right.
thinking about like the relations he would have had with the women prior. What was the basis of those relationships?
I,
Was
I,
how?
I, I'm not in his bedroom to be able to explain to you the exact reasons. What I can
Yeah.
say is that through the different schools, like in
Hmm.
Islam, it says you can have X amount of wives in Islam, four wives. You with me? So that's in Islam. But we don't live according to the laws of the Canaanite or the Adamite race. Do you understand? We live according to the rules and laws of Wu-Sabat. So within Wu-Sabat, a female can have X amount of mates, as well as a male can have X amount of mates, but
Okay.
they have to come to an agreement. You with me?
Hmm.
So if you're the first mate that you're with,
Hmm.
and you say to her, well, I don't know, there's things that we need to do, and I also have this person that I'm interested in, and she's in agreement with that. You with
Yeah.
me? It's not all about just having a lustful aspect, as most
Indeed.
men probably do when they say they want to have more than one,
Oh,
girlfriend or boyfriend. It's more to do with what can please them, their desires more so than what is actually needed for the running
mhm.
of a family. Do you
Right.
understand?
Yeah. Yes.
So in that aspect, your immediate, you can find this out in the sacred, what's it called? I've got the name now, the title. Yeah, Gospel of Unknown to the Sacred Feminine. Yeah, there's Gospel of Unknown to the Sacred Feminine goes into that,
Okay.
for you if you haven't got that book. It actually
Hmm.
tells you, what a woman should accept and reject,
Hmm.
a woman,
Right.
what a female, what a male is supposed to do in a relationship and what he's not supposed to do. Also, if you refer to the Sabian man, that also gives you a direction and a guideline of how to conduct yourself as a Sabian man. But yes, you within also the revelations to the Sabians, it explains also that you can have several partners, but again, it's based on agreement and what the actual relationship is about. Do you get what I'm
100%.
saying? In the sense of financially,
Mhm.
emotionally, everything really, so it's not just about, oh, I want a wife because for instance, she may be barren and
Mhm.
she may not, you get what I'm saying, not made able to conceive a child. So within the right context, if you're able to speak with her, it's not about convincing her, she has to also feel that it's right for her. Do you see what I'm
Yes.
saying? And then
Indeed.
in that context, if she says, well, I can't have a child, but you have another mate and she can conceive, and then we
Hmm.
raise up that child. So it's all
Hmm.
about those are ancient practices that we used to have many thousands of years ago. So it's not nothing new. It's just something that's been reintroduced into our culture. But we have to take a very gradual, slow step. First and foremost, we have to weed out the negative and disagreeable and all of these things that are we've taken upon in the West, all the lustful, etc. You know, we have to clean ourselves inside out in order to even make that thought or that transition to wanting to take more than one partner and what it comes with, the responsibilities it comes with. Does that make sense?
Indeed.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, just to first clarify as well, obviously from my own perspective, I'm asking this question really from a perspective of knowledge.
Mhm.
As I say, I've been married 27 years. I've
Mm.
been with my wife since I was 19 years old. That was
Okay.
actually since I was 17 years old. I'm not in any way, shape, or form planning on any kind of polygamous relationship. I'm
Okay.
very, very happy, contented, and
Mm.
building that relationship. But it's an important point to understand
Yeah.
about the doctrine, and thank you for clarifying the way in which you did. And because I guess, like, if, say, for example, I was looking at a man's example upon road, you know what I mean? I'm like, okay, this guy knocked out like 100 kids. Do you know what I'm saying? You might, you know what I mean?
That's
We
right. You have to be able to defend that. Why
Yes,
the reason behind it? Yes.
exactly.
Initially, when I'm just going to invite somebody to speak. I see you, my brother. You can speak in a second. Once I finish this question. What it is when we look at the journey of Dr. Malachi, okay, as a chosen being, a chosen entity by the supreme forces of nine ether, okay,
Hmm.
when an incarnated teacher or avatar comes into this realm, okay, they're given a certain amount of things that they can and cannot do, and they are supposed to have X amount of children with X amount of partners. Do you know what I mean? Which is like a balance in the scope of things for that particular being. So you have disagreeable and agreeable children in that. The whole
Who?
scope of it, he hasn't gone into detail as to why 100. You with me?
Mhm.
So I can't give you the thing. Maybe another student
Who,
teacher. I
who
haven't.
gives them that authority? Who's that? Like you said, like somebody gives them that.
So if I go to part of Crow, the decision,
Mhm.
um, if I can just bring that up, I'll read it to you.
I'm asking because, like, like, say if we're not like believing in God in the way that, like, you
Rahubat,
do it
Yeah.
Rahul, in the
This
how a
meantime,
Christian would.
oh, okay.
Rahubat,
Hold on. Zamal
Sorry,
Sakins,
sorry.
are you?
yeah, Rahubat, sorry, I thought you were looking for something. Whilst
Yeah,
you're looking for it,
yeah, I'm looking for it. Yeah.
yeah, I just wanted to say people have to know and study the doctrine to understand the mission right from the beginning and why the master teacher had so much children, etc., etc. However, when you're coming from a Western mindset and thinking that this is what the rules of marriage and how many children you should have, etc., etc.,
Hmm.
from a Western mindset, you have to remember Wu-Sabat is a different culture of its own.
Mm.
And the master teacher is the best example in any way, shape, or form you would like to look at. So trying to say, okay, and we have to remember to be mindful and respectful, like saying things like, if you knock out 100 kids, there was a mission and a purpose for these children. These were the children that were supposed to be the generation to help raise us to a certain degree. And if you've read any of the latest update, these children would have been the ones with their barythry gland, etc., etc., etc. So people that don't take the time to come into the community or study the whole mission and the journey of the master teacher, can
Mm.
come in and come across in a particular way without really realizing that everything he does and has done was by design for the upliftment of our people. Because when you understand that to build a new nation, or like he was saying in the last update, where beings are meant to be taken and given the barythry gland and then taken to a different planet, which is already set up to have no diseases, no or the chaos and the issues that we have on this planet at the moment. When you're starting again, you need a group of people and that's what's happening. But I'm just saying that to say that do not feel in any way, shape, or form that he can be compared to just any and anybody on the planet because his was a mission. So I don't know if you found what you're looking for yet.
It was on Patakro, but my screen is not staying still. So I keeps
What,
keeping.
what, while
But
you're
it's
looking for that, can I just say to what you just said there, Sekwe, and thank you for saying that. I appreciate it. When I said like knock out some 100 children, I wasn't referring to Malachi York. I was referring to like how perhaps we perceive a man upon
yeah.
road who was like who had done, say, who had equivalently had 100 children. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
We
yeah, I
might,
got you 100%. I know you weren't
you know what I'm
referring
saying?
to,
You
but
you,
what
you
I'm
get me?
saying is that in this on the street, a lot of
Mm,
men they're not guided, and they just like you say, frivolously having children all over the place. They don't have the resources or even the wisdom to be able to maintain the wives or the children. So I do get what you're saying, but that's what I'm saying that the irresponsibility of men on the street and how they do things, like creeping around, cheating, and all that stuff. That's not what his mission was about. So I just wanted
okay.
to kind of do
And
that.
so those books that you mentioned earlier, would you say they would give me a good understanding of how to develop as a man, such that I would be able to balance relationships well enough to build the level of trust necessary to have to live,
Okay.
say, an
Let
equivalent?
me let me
Or
ask that question quickly for you.
thank you.
To develop as a man, the first thing you should do is come into the community, read the Nuwapian Man or the Sabian Man, which tells you exactly what a man should do, and then books like they've already mentioned, like the sacred, the Gospel of Yanun on the sacred feminine, and there are patriarchs such as the rules, sexual violations of Nuwapi, there are many scrolls, but what people don't really take the time to do is study and know what we do or do not do in Wu-Sabat, and then behave and live according to that. They're just kind of like that video or whatever you went on YouTube to find out about him having children. There have been many people, such as Bilal Phillips and others, who have tried to tarnish the master's character by putting out information, not understanding the divine mission. And they will look at something like that, like, okay, he has a lot of children, and apply it to their Western 60th mindset. Like if he was doing what people are, that do with no mission, is just a matter of lust, and they just want to just like, just have as many women as they can, and they can't maintain them, etc. So I hope that's helped. I'm gonna yield and let we'll see you,
Yeah,
Kevin.
no
Tell me.
problem. Tell that Zamal for that. A bit rusty on that part, but this is right. Here you go. So this is from Partok Raw. Okay, on this one is entitled chapter 15 is entitled Pa Yasar, the family. Okay, so I won't read all of it, but I just find the part that also talks about his children. Right. So as Sakem mentioned, it's a more highly divine reason for that. It wasn't just a matter of, he's gonna have X amount of children. So I'm gonna read from verse 9. So those who pretend to be like me must understand I am three beings in one, and they will only inherit from Malachi, Kobina, Okran, York, Dr. York, not Yanun, Razaku, Tahutwi, Nataru, Ningish, Zeda, Anunnaki. So I understand that's first and foremost that this is a unique being, yeah, or person, okay? Verse 10, this is the reason none of my sons or daughters are like myself. I see in each of them their mothers, which is not bad things, it's a normal thing. Verse 11, I was to have 100 offspring. Some would develop from me as I pass on to them a higher degree of tahum understanding. So this is what, again, Saken is explaining, and this is confirming, all right, is that there's going to be those who will receive certain higher degrees. And from that, they will be able to guide others and raise others as well. Verse 12, yet I can pass to their Mudotatu, mothers, extended higher life, and teach any of our Shakhasu people these Kadashat secrets, yet it will only be passed on to the true and devoted from amongst Pa Munwapu Shalel Nawapu, the Nuwapians are Wu Nawap or Wu-Sabat, and Nuwapians, you can fool me, yet you cannot, Rashush, fool the three. I have been fooled by many over the years. Why I'm in prison, never again. Okay, so that's just to kind of like explain and maybe expand on what Ken said, but essentially there are going to be certain children that will be raised. There are going to be certain children that are going to be born, and those children will also be teaching within us, amongst us, and also had the bariatric line reinserted. Okay.
Appreciate that. Just a final. So obviously the big thing, as I begin to say, think whether I would want to be more deeper in the community, having been married for as long as I have, is this clarification on these kind of things, which is obviously of deep importance, because when you are trying to build like that level of trust, I mean, I'm not a perfect man. I've made mistakes over the years, and trust is always a big issue in relationship. People lose marriages after 30 years, quite easily still, because they go off and have an affair or do this, that, or a third thing. So it's about like, how do you say, okay, yeah, this is a spiritual teacher, this is a doctrine, there's so many spiritual teachers, like in Christianity, in Islam, in Judaism, and all different kind of things, who, by their character and by the way they've lived their lives, have, it's not exemplary. Do you know what I mean? So I'm trying to basically compare and contrast, like, what is it about Wu-Sabat? What is it about Malachi York? What gives him the, like, the ability to do it in such a way that is exemplary, not do as I do and say, do as I say, but not do as I do. Do you know what I mean? How do I follow a lifestyle and an example of this master teacher by his life that is going to enable me to build trust in my relationship and say to my woman, the way I'm going to grow through the doctrine, through these things, is going to enable me to be a better man on this earth, better look after you, better look after our children, etc., etc. So thank you for clarifying those things. Any other points you'd like to say about that would be really appreciated.
I mean, what you're saying there, being that exemplary thing. So Ken mentioned about the Sabian Man book that if you partner called the Sabian Man, and what your responsibilities as a male is and what her responsibility as a female is. You with me? So that's a start in the right direction. Also, be about what you're saying. You say it's not just about I'm gonna say you're gonna just say it and have lip service, but be about it. You with me? There's certain guidelines about joining the orders that the master has instructed all male Sabians to do, is to join the orders in order for join the orders to raise yourself and become a better being, in order to then raise other beings to become better too. Okay, that's what the orders are about, and obviously much more will be revealed, and how to, rightly guide yourself in this world. You with me? So there's a lot of things that the stepping stones that you would need to make in order for you to then be that exemplary body and live in the image of Yanun. You with me?
Yeah.
And
So is it a
also,
choice, or is it something that I would be expected to develop myself to be more polygamous?
well, it's not an expectation. We don't say to you, we expect you to be this by 6 months or this by 7 months. Is what we're saying is that there's a lifestyle and a way that we conduct ourselves as Sabians. There's a spiritual guidance. We have a spiritual guide. And when you start living by these things, that's when that science, okay, sorry, just they're having a phone call. But from living that lifestyle, Wu-Sabat will start to work for you, because Wu-Sabat or Wu Nawab is linked to your ancestors. You with me? So the
I
reward
understand.
and the miracles will start to happen in your life. And
Got you.
and one of the things is mental liberation from all adverse forces.
Right.
You see, many people think the reward is going to be like money and jewels and things like that. Those are parts that you will get on the way. But the main thing is you have mental liberation from all adverse forces, meaning nine ether will work for you and through you. You understand? And then
Yeah.
by way of working, we as a people working within nine ether, those miracles like building the pyramids and doing things for and of by each other will start to happen. You see, but the first step, the step takes is you've got to make that step.
Thank you.
Lucia, you got questions in the Zoom chat, yeah, but I just wanted to say quickly to the brother, no one has to have a polygamous relationship in Wu-Sabat. You can have one mate and that's it if you want. It's not like the way, because I heard you just say something about being polygamous. You don't have to be polygamous. I just wanted to say that. All right.
Yeah, that's very true. Yeah, you don't have to be. It's not a requisite. Yeah, we're going to just quickly try something. And before I go to the next question on, was it Zoom? Is a question on Zoom. Is that right, second?
Tua, you got a couple on Zoom.
Okay, just going to go into the chat. Tua. Yeah, it's right there. Right. Can somebody just unmute their mic and speak, or second, if you can speak?
Tua's on. Can you hear me?
Okay, we're just, yeah, we can hear you, but we're just going to try and put it through the speakers and see if it's
Tua.
going to work.
Let me read the questions in the meantime then,
Yeah.
whilst you're waiting. The first one is from Josie, says, could you clarify, please help clarify the scrolls on the 24 elders? And he's written a couple of verses.
Yeah. Okay. Can I be heard? Because we can hear you now. So can I be heard?
Tua, you can be heard.
Okay, fantastic. Okay, great. Right. The question was on, so I got slightly distracted there. Let me just go into the chat and read it. Right. So please help to clarify the scrolls below on the 24 elders. So verse 86, let it be known, the reason I allowed myself to be taken and by that left from your presence for this time was so that you would show your true colors, your actions, your devotion, or your true nature, which many claim to be so devoted have shown. Question, why is Baba testing us knowing his children and the future? Okay, the test is for us to prove to ourselves. You with me? It's not that he's testing us. Yeah, that test is to show that we can work together in, as he's always been saying for so many years before his incarceration, to live for and of by each other, okay, and also love and unity. Love and unity, he said, has always been saying, is the key to freeing him. Yeah, so in that is our test, because we don't realize that we're also confined to a mental prison, okay, and we're linked to him. Any person who says Yanun or Pa Nabab Yanun is my personal savior and I'm linked to Wu-Sabat, okay, recognize right now, okay, that you're linked to him, because anytime you say that, you make an ethereal link to this particular being, because he's the one that will be vouching for us as a race, yeah, as one group, okay? And he'll be the ones that will say, well, they've done what they're supposed to be doing, so do they get the rewards or will they be redeemed? Does that make sense? So I'll read on. Verse 102, I was given a means to measure and to see who is who. Question, who gave Baba these means knowing that he's a center or higher guardian amongst the 24 elders? Okay, so by the forces of nature, him being one of the 24 elders, there's the Council of Nine, which Atum Ray sits on. Again, going back to the Nine, you'll find that written in the Patarak called the Nine. Okay, so Atum Ray, or another title for this being, okay, in that council, the Council of Nine, by the forces of nature, they have chosen this particular individual whose lineage goes all the way back to these Natharu. Okay, so by the forces of natural nature, Nine Ether selects a child who within that DNA lineage and incarnates, and will have an incarnation or an avatar that will work through him. Okay, he has many other let's just say beings that are spoken through him throughout the various schools that we've gone through. And in each school that he's gone through, they've conveyed a particular message. So right now, Yanun is the main being, as I've read from actual fact, sorry, part of the decision. I'll read it again. Okay. So it says, so those who pretend to be like me must understand I am three beings in one, and they will only inherit from Malachi, Kobina, York, or Kran. Yanun, the Hutwi, and Ningizida, the Anunnaki. So Yanun is the Riskian, the Hutwi is the Nataru, and Ningishzida is the Anunnaki. So within that particular triad, okay, they had certain schools of thought that they had to teach each all of us in order to raise us to a certain level. So Yanun now speaks through Malachi, and his job is to get us to the point where we are able to transform and transmute in order to be taken above or removed from this planet before the catastrophes, real catastrophes that you're seeing. You know what I mean? These are minor ones. The major ones that he has told us about, you with me, that is actually very, it's a worse scenario than what you think. And it's going to get worse, as you can see. There's many things going on the planet. So he's come here, and the whole job is to raise those 144,000 who will be taken, as the new update has explained, will be taken to Antarctica, below the waters, and then they have their barotheric gland related, etc. You with me? So this is something that, as a mission, he is here to fulfill. So by the forces of natural nature, Nine Ether, and the Council of Nine, they have given him that platform in order to raise us to that level. Let's see if any more questions. So I hope that's answered that part. Verse 198. A very sad thing will happen to them all if they don't wake up and return, while for others, it is too late for them, lost forever. Question, who are those that are lost forever? Essentially, those who have given themselves over to the beast, yeah, and the mixing in of the different races on the planet who have embraced religion. What happens is that when you embrace religion, especially if you transition, these entities or extraterrestrials or EBEs, the many different names for them, some of them know that they can take your soul. Okay, so religion is one of the ways that they get you to actually lose your soul. You can lose your soul, and then these extraterrestrials, these Luciferians, they can actually take your soul and utilize it. So this is one of the reasons why when he says, or who are those that are lost forever, is because those who are lost forever, they've literally sold their soul for wealth or for whatever gains that they want. And our job is to try our best and do our best while on this realm to teach others about their soul, their spirit, and their connection to their ancestors. Because ultimately, your ancestors are the ones that will be protecting you, okay, by way of these teachings. And these beings have sent one from them in order to guide us back to who we truly are. Okay, so that's what happens. So who are those that are lost forever? Are those who have given up their soul. And unfortunately, it's sad, but it does happen. So my question comes from the scrolls reading. It's another question here. The scroll I was reading today. Okay, before I jump to that question, actually, no, it links into the 24 elders, still the master secret. So I'll go there and then I can invite Nubian alchemist. Okay, so my question comes from the scroll I was reading today, titled The Master Secrets, the 24 Elders, Part 1. The scroll got me emotional. It's almost like he allowed this to happen to see if we could unite and put our energies together and get him out. I was appointed to live to age 72, in all 100 or until AD 2045. This is based on 1845, 1945, and 2045, or cycles of 100 years. Verse 132. This will not be so now. You did as you pleased, not as I directed you. So my questions are, 1. So when the being Yanun exits the physical vehicle of Dr. Malachi York, will he return again? If so, is it known when? Okay, so the answer to that is yes, he will return again. Every 24,000 years is a renewal of our way of life. That's when Yanun, that's the cycle he goes by. However, he's also stated that look for me in the waters, look for me in the trees, because we're dealing with ancestors who are elemental beings. So as long as we remember the master teacher in our hearts and in our minds, he will always live on. This is how our spirituality works. This is the thing where we have to separate religion from the reality of how we as Africans live. We knew that energy does not die. Energy transforms or changes shape or goes into another dimension. However, you have a quantum entanglement or quantum connection with your ancestors. They've even proven this the other day in a scientific experiment where they took an atom, one atom was here, and another atom was in another room or in another atom structure, and the same energy resonated, and there was a link between the two atoms, even though they were separate apart. And this is known what Einstein referred to as spooky action at a distance, or what is also referred to in physics, not physics, quantum physics, as quantum entanglement. So you always have a link with Yanun. There's even when you go into the books of actual facts and the master secrets, and you'll see in the back doorway to Yanun. And there's a prayer that you will say, which allows you to have access to Yanun, because you have an etheric link to this particular being and to your ancestors who he represents while here. So yes, the physical Dr. Malachi will still have connection to these beings, and you still have connection to Yanun, even though Yanun has left the presence, like the essence of him, not left as in he's gone forever, but he still has a link to your ancestors by way of Dr. Malachi, who's linked to Yanun. You with me? There's never severed. It's just that they won't be at present all the time unless you require or need him to be present. And again, that goes again with even your relatives who have transitioned on. They're not here at all times in your presence or but they're there in your thoughts, yeah, and they're there in your rituals that you may do for them. So in that reality, they still exist and they still can communicate to you. It's just that religion has made it where it seems very taboo and very alienated. But in reality, this is how we as Africans live. This was our spiritual reality. This was what we practiced naturally. It wasn't foreign to us. Okay, but there was a concentrated effort to make us forget these rituals and these spiritual connections, because in doing that, and then what they did was just transpose religion onto us and got us to call on their deities and their ancestors like Abraham, Moses, even though they were fictional characters. There's still an energy, and energy is in words, and words carry frequency and vibration and tones and all of these things. So in your mind's eye, you're creating them even though you're not realizing it. So I hope that answers that question.
So, just to let you know that you have a number of people on Clubhouse stage,
yeah,
but I tried to bring E up and I can't for some reason.
Yeah, I do see the thing. So I'm going to. I did see. Well, I did tell him to hold on actually, but it looks like there's a message. I don't know. It says Yanyun said he's not returning in the plea. Okay, right, but you're still connected, even though he's not returning. You still have a connection to Yanun, and every 24,000 years is a renewal of our cycle. So you have to bear that in mind too. He's never said there's never going to be a time when a being will come and represent, and Yanun comes every 24,000 years. That is his cycle. Okay. Question number 2 from Zoom. Him being in prison, does it mean the years he's supposed to live on Earth were reduced? If so, what could be the reason? I'm trying to understand that. He's supposed to live on Earth reduced. He still will be living, just that incarcerated. So it's not reduced into, you mean the work that he's doing, you mean? If you mean the work that he's doing, it's been limited, but he still managed to raise enough of us in order to teach this information by studying, and teaching this information on a daily basis or weekly basis, whatever the case may be, and practicing the things that he's left us and instructed us to practice. You see, this is the reality, is that although he may not be with us physically, the instructions, this is what, so it makes me laugh because Ken always says this in OSM. He says, people are failing to just follow the basic instructions. The instructions that Yanun has given us and the warner has provided to us is what we should be following. If we follow those instructions, we will never be left alone. We're never alone, as the old prayer says. I'm never alone. All is I am. You see, so you still have an etheric connection with your ancestors, no matter what time it is or day it is. It's just that when you start to forget them, it's when they can no longer have a connection with you. So it's about remembering them, honoring them. Every day when you wake up, teach your children about them, teach your children about your ancestors, teach your children about your time, your language, this and that. In doing that, you would then start to realize how powerful this is. You, also, other races and cultures will also begin to realize that, hold on a second, there's people beginning to wake up now and they start to respect you because you don't fit into the normal, guy on the street who wears this and that. They wear cultural outfit, they speak in the language. You with me? They communicate together. These people are thinking as one, and that's exactly what he said. We need to be united. Yes, become one family. So if you're of that mind frame, and this is what you're working towards, then keep working towards it. We're not here to try and convince you or say if you do this, you're gonna be going to hell. That's what religion teaches. We're not doing advocating any of that. What we're saying is if you are of this and you're feeling it and it resonates with you, the most important thing is, does it resonate with you? Does it give you a DNA explosion? What I mean by that is it activating that dormant self, that dormant energy, your soul that has been dormant for a very, very long time? Each time you've incarnated on this realm, is that soul still asleep? Is that conscious awareness still asleep? Can it be revived? Can it be awoken up by the message that the conveyor, the messenger, is sending? If you're of that persuasion and you know that things are being proven day in, day out about what he's been teaching throughout all the books, as Sekan said, study the books. If you study from all the way from Islam, when he was lecturing, all the way to now, you realize, hold on, he was talking the same thing back then, but it's just that in modern day times, it's just been kind of like extrapolate, what's the word I'm looking for? It's been advanced. Okay, so for instance, he will talk about Allah, for instance, yeah, and Allah will create the state of nothingness. If you know that now, we know that that's talking about Papa, all the all. You mean all expanding. So he's always taught us in different stages throughout the different schools. So we must listen to the master teacher in all the schools that he taught us. Love and unity, he's always said, that is the key to our freedom. So I hope that answers number two. And
I'm not sure if you can hear me, but I was saying that there are people waiting on Clubhouse, and also I tried to bring E up, but I
I'm
can't.
going to jump into Clubhouse right now.
Okay, Tawak.
Antakatiro. Right, so what's going on with Clubhouse now? Okay. Okay, here we go. Right, who on Clubhouse has been brought up? Who would like to speak on Clubhouse? So, anyone on Clubhouse? Because I can't. The mic is unmute your mic and speak. Okay, let me go into the chat. Right.
Sorry, Zamal, what I was saying is that I don't know if it's me, but I can't bring up E. You may have to leave Clubhouse and come back on.
Okay, E, if you can hear what Seken's saying, if you can leave and come back in. I can't see him either. I've got EG, it's not EG, is it? Hold on, we've got EM Sawab. Sawab, you got your hand up. Let me bring you up. So I'm going to invite you to speak. Okay, Rahubag M Sawab. Then Abraham or Abraham. Would you like to say something? You've been invited to speak. Okay, I don't think there's anything wrong with my mic is on. Can I be heard? So Clubhouse is very strange.
Can you use them all?
Yeah. Okay. Tell about that. Well, M Sawab, if you're ready to speak, I can bring you up. Otherwise, try again. Maybe come back out. Because I've tried to bring you on stage, but it's not happening. Okay, let's move on to another question. Unless there's any questions in the store, in the temple. No? No questions? Okay. Did you have a question?
I wanted to
Just bring the mic. We'll bring a mic to you.
about what you were saying about Antarctica and going across the
Oh,
world.
okay. I don't have. Do I have? Hold on a second. Let me see if I can get the update. It was posted. Are you on OSM?
No.
Okay, that's all right. The update was posted on OSM. Okay. Just search for it.
It's in the files section. If you just go to the
Yeah, that's that's how it's up. So I'm using this laptop and it's not giving me an option for some reason. Come on, files. OSM. What's that second? There we go. Okay, so this was a UFO. Here's the UFO one, isn't it, again? 2021.
Are you looking on?
Yeah, I'm looking on the file.
Telegram?
Yeah,
Okay, let me just have a quick look.
I think this is the one.
It's June 20.
Yeah,
The first one. Yeah.
yeah. Okay. So, basically, the master talks about the UAPs, which I mentioned earlier. Okay, and then it says, we're just gonna jump to talking about the drones and how people have been seeing them, and government's not denying it anymore. So it says, so you want to know what is really going on? This is the 24th year of the next 24,000 years of the 6,000 year cycles. For those who are not familiar with that, right, we go through a 24,000 year cycle, okay? And that cycle is split into quarters. So you have 6,000, 6,000, 6,000, 6,000, moon cycle, and also a sun cycle. Yeah, so those are the cycles. Within that cycle, I'm going to share the screen with you so you can actually read along. Let me just share the screen. Okay, can you see that? Yeah. Right. So once the government could not explain them as drones from China, sorry, I beg your pardon. So you want to know what's really going on? This is the 24th year of the next 24,000 years of the 6,000 year cycles. We moved in 2000 AD from the last lunar moon cycle of 6,000 years of fiction, faith, and beliefs, i.e. emboldened religions, to the solar sun cycle of actual facts, Wu-Sabat, Nuwapu. The breaking of the hypnotic spell of ignorance. So the aliens were looking for the 24th elder because it is time again for the 144,000 to be transported to the South Antarctica, down under the ice to receive their barothry gland in their submental. Okay, so.
What is the barothry gland?
Okay, glad you asked. So the barothry gland allowed you higher access or random access to extraterrestrials, certain beings that you can actually link into. Okay, so the barothry gland was a gland.
Sorry, what's that one?
Barothry. Yeah, it's here on the screen. Can you see it? Let me just move it up a bit. So emboldened barothry gland. Okay, this was a gland that sat in the hippocampus area of your brain.
So
right?
Do we no longer have it?
You have remnants of it.
Hmm?
You have remnants of it. You don't have, not all everybody has it. Some, like for instance, native what they're called in Australia, what are their names? What they call Aborigines. Yeah, Aborigines. Some of them have their gland. Some native Africans, like the Sans people or the Bushmen, some of them have their gland. You with me? Because this gland allowed you access and also activated certain portions of DNA in you, which allowed you to interdimensionally travel. Okay, so that's just one of the things that it could do. Also, you could have direct communication with extraterrestrials, beings from interdimensionally and also in the universe. We get the messages, but it's not 100% because it's maimed. Yeah. However, this is what the master's alluding to, explaining here that those 144,000 will be transported and they will receive their barophry gland in their submental. So that the submental is literally right here, where there's like a little soft palate. Yeah, if you feel it's like a little soft palate there. So that place is also linked into your actual brain. When you go and do your research on the as a submental, that's what it's called sub. Yeah, because it's the lower yeah. Okay. And then to regrow in their hippocampus part of their brain for the resurrection. Okay. And to activate the use of their whole brain as supreme beings, deities. Okay. So at one time we had this. And then through the mixing, we then lost it. Okay. So yes.
No, just
Oh, okay.
what you said, mixing.
Yeah, the mixing was mixing with the Luciferian seed or the Canaanites. Yeah, so the Adamites were from us. If you know the story of the Adamites, they were grafted from the seed of Eve and then Adam. These were the Kuthites and the Pataites. They were one seed of Africans. And the Kuthites were a seed of Africans that had mixed in with the Hindus that were coming here to this planet. Yeah. So from that mixture gave birth to, through many genetic experiments, gave birth to the Adamites. And the Adamites had their gland, but the original Africans that were here had it anyway. They had it naturally. It was in them. So when they were able to communicate with those ancestors of theirs or the Nataru or other extraterrestrial higher beings, advanced beings. And it came to a time when the Adamites were created, they gave an offshoot from them was the Canaanites, who were diseased, leprosy and all these other things that they had. But through the mixing in on various levels, yeah, we lost the gland. Yeah, and in some parts of it just got maimed. So we no longer have access like we do.
What's the meaning of the word maim?
Maiming is when it's like you have your chest, for instance, is rudimentary. So even though a female can breastfeed, you have a chest or a breast, but you can't.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So some of your DNA has been deactivated. So it's been maimed. Okay.
Another question is the fiery gland.
So
is that gland of a fiery gland more powerful than the pineal one?
It links in sync with it because the barothry gland and the pineal gland secretes the melanin. You with me? And that melanin is the key also to your linking to your soul. You understand? And the barothry gland, what it does is it activates your mental capacity. Does that make sense? Yeah. So in having all of these attributes within you, this is what made you a deity. This is what made you a supreme being, because they knew about your soul. They knew about these glands that you had and how you could fly and you could swim and how you used the pineal gland, for instance, or the third eye. It was actually a form of echolocation. You could communicate with that in the waters, like dolphins. Exactly. But all of these things have been.
Fly as well.
We could fly as well. Yeah. The reason why you know you can fly because most black Africans, especially in their pristine state or purest state, they keloid. Yeah. So the keloiding is when you cut yourself and the blood tries to glue back itself, but then it goes into a lump. And you got some people that have got quite a lot on the back of their head or whatever, is because that keloiding was an attempt to grow back that particular part of that limb. But because the DNA is messed up, it grows back deformed. Do you understand? Yeah. So these are the abilities and the qualities that we have as supreme beings. You see, so so this part here links into that will be taken, the master teacher said in another update, that will be taken first to be recalibrated. Yeah. So we'll be recalibrated on certain parts, first to the moon, then to Mars, and then from Mars, we could be taken to any part of where you came from. So your whole matrix will be mapped, and they'll know by your matrix fingerprint, just like you have a fingerprint. Yeah, you have a matrix fingerprint, a DNA. and that DNA matrix would determine where you're from. So then you'd be sent back there. So it could be a water planet that you're from. You see what I'm saying? Originally, or you could be from a planet that's fire, or whatever the case may be. Or trees, like they showed you in Avatar. Yeah, somewhere water, somewhere in the trees, somewhere in the air. Yeah. So these are all the qualities or abilities that you have within you, that you have all of these different faculties. Yeah, that you could do all of these things based on thyroid gland, your liquid gold that's in your DNA or in your blood at one time, which allowed you to actually interdimensionally travel. Yeah, so there's a lot going on. Is why the master teacher has come here, is to try and get you to, first of all, transmute, which is our chemical structure in your body. That's what transmutation means. The chemicals will be automatically restructured, okay, and recalibrated. And then from you being able to transmute, then you can also transform. There's a difference. You with me? Transformation is being able to grow limbs, etc. Transmutation is the chemical aspect of you. You understand? It's where you can live in different environments. Okay, so there's a lot that you as a being can do. So when extraterrestrials see you and they see you as you heard that term, waste man? Yeah, that's what's happening. Why are you giving these abilities to these people when they're not even listening to you? He's come to wake us up to recognize who we really are. We are divine beings. We're gods, gods that have many abilities. Yeah. Okay.
Does
So
that mean we're going to die?
We did at one time we never did die. That's right. We only reason why we died. I'll take you to a Patarak that will explain to you. It's called dimensional shift, and I'll read that to you in a minute. But let me finish this update. So under the ice, there we have a great city. It's called Egg Island. Okay. When we came from the waters, we lived there, protected by the mantis aliens, who you know as the predator-looking type beings. Yeah. Then we crossed over onto the South Ganawa, Africa, and began our migration. You have to bear in mind, okay, the land masses were not separated. Yeah, exactly. It was called Ganawa. All right. And then we will be put under a deep sleep. And as each day is 1,000 years, they are to be transported by day or solar year, 365 days, after the crafts come from Orion by night, lunar year 354, so as not to crash into each other in the wormhole, the vortex. Anyone read Man from Planet Risk? Okay, see if I can bring that up, because then you can see that what the vortex that he's described.
Life offers us many great fortunes, man.
So what's that?
I said life offer us many great fortunes.
Yes, you're most right, my brother. Sorry, right. So just
and read and keep your mind sharp.
Reading definitely keeps your cognitive awareness. It helps a lot.
A lot of people can scroll 5 hours on social media. They can't even sit and read a book for an hour, man.
Yeah.
This world is getting, man.
Okay, so you have this. Can you see that?
Yeah.
Yeah. So this was what the master teacher explained in what they call the Philadelphia experiment. Okay, so there was an experiment that was done by the American US Navy, okay, which was to basically create invisibility and also teleportation. Yeah, these are the things they're not telling you. Yes, you need to go and do your research. Okay, so teleportation was very much known back then, right? And certain extraterrestrials were in contact with certain people, i.e., for people like Nikola Tesla. You know all about the Tesla car? Well, he was a very, very ingenious scientist. He knew more than just about electricity. He knew a lot of things about sound and tones of vibration. Yeah. Let me just explain. Yeah. So what's happened here is that within this timeline, this vortex, okay, as you can see, it has many different entry points. Yeah. So this particularly is an illustration, all right, of the vortex that opens every 10 years. Yeah. And this is a time continuum vortex. So every 10 years it opens, and then by a certain time it will close. Okay. And this is what the master, when you go back to our the update, yes, wormhole, the vortex. So this is what he's alluding to, all right? Orion is millions of light years away from Earth. A light year is the distance light can travel in 1 year. 6 trillion miles if solar, 186,272 feet per second. So it will only take a twinkle of an eye for each trip. Yet the 144,000, both males and females, are to be pure inside out and outside in. Okay, the equinox of 24,000 years equals equal time. Right, so that's our time. Yeah, we go by a certain cycle. The Caucasian race, the Asian race, they go by certain cycles. In fact, there's a book I was reading just the other day. It's talking about different cycles of birds, insects, the lunar cycle, etc. And cycles and circles are two different things as well. So you have circles, okay, that you see on many different things, objects, natural nature, etc. But then those also have cycles. Now, the word cycle means measurement or rhythm. You're with me? So it's a measurement and rhythm of time. Yeah. And that time cycle is that we are governed by a particular cycle while the Caucasian race, so their 6,000 years started from the year 1996. That's when their 6,000 years started to expire.
Okay.
By the year 1999, it was time for them to go by natural nature. Yeah. And then by the year 2000, it will be their demise. So you're going to start seeing more and more of them disappearing, not in the sense of being, well, there'll be some will be abducted, that's part of it, but also by mixing in. They what natural nature or their overlords, the creators have told them by mental telepathy is that they need to mix back in. And in mixing back in, they also lose their ability to actually be here on the planet because they're actually transforming back into Dravidians again. If you notice, there's not the original Caucasoid was blonde hair, blue-eyed. You hardly see them anymore. Yeah. Now you're seeing more dark-haired, dark-eyed people. They're transitioning. The master says they're transitioning back into Asians or the Dravidians. So you're going to start seeing more Dravidians on the planet. And then as time goes on, the Dravidian will eventually also die out, and there'll only be us left, the Nagaru race. That's why there's a saying, as it was in the beginning, so shall it be in the end. Yeah. So no matter what, it's inevitable. It's just a matter of time, and we have to be patient. But in that patience, it doesn't mean we should be idle. Yeah. Not IDOL, but IDLE. Yeah. Idle and not making any changes, not teaching our children the true culture, etc., won't allow us to actually grow as a race. You with me? It actually kills us. Yeah, so we have to practice our culture, live our language, live our culture, speak our language. All of these things, when you go and study what language has a capability to do, it changes your cognitive awareness into your reality. You see, right now, when the language, even I'm speaking English and I'm getting you to comprehend certain things, when you're speaking your true language, what I'm conveying to you, your mind and your brain will convert into a totally different aspect. You know what I mean? To a totally different reality, you know? So, yeah, I see you're urging for a question.
Do you feel the difference when you speak?
Oh, yeah, most definitely.
In English.
Definitely.
And when you speak.
Yeah, because it's more direct. That's one thing about Wu-Sabat. Like when I'm thinking Wu-Sabat and I say, I need to say this to my children or say this to somebody, it's very direct. You with me? It's not like what I was thinking and you kind of like beating around the bush just to get to your point. It's like, Kayef Atirantak, how are you? You with me? No, how do you feel today? Or do you get what I'm saying? There's different ways of someone who tries to put something in English. Yeah, to actually, but in Wu-Sabat or Miss Batia is quite direct in how we convey to each other.
Like, feel like spiritually and like mentally.
Put it this way, I'm beginning to enjoy. Yeah, I'm beginning to enjoy my language even more because one, I've made a conscious decision to want to learn it. You see, that's another key point. Is that yes, we have a language, but have you made a mental and conscious decision to say, you know what, I'm going to learn this language. One, because it calibrates me. It's recalibrating my DNA. How is it doing that? Well, you have in your DNA, you have the 4 base pairs, right? Well, music also works on certain notes as well. So those notes, okay, which they're working on, is very synonymous with the 4 base pairs in your DNA. In that as well, there's also the ones and zeros which are going on, known as binary. Yeah. So your 4 base pairs are what is known as the encoding of your DNA. Yeah. So it's being written in code form. As you're speaking of Miss Batia, that code form is recalibrating your DNA. Okay. And it's making it more susceptible for you to link into natural nature. When you link into natural nature, you're linking into your ancestors who are elemental beings. Does that make sense? Yeah. So that vibration and the resonance frequency changes from what they've got us on, that, A440, etc., okay, which is not conducive for us. Because again, when you study about cells and DNA, certain frequencies and tones can distort or affect you. See what I'm saying? So all of these are reasons why the master says study your language or learn your language, because it's doing all of these things on a sub-molecular and quantum level. Does that make sense? Yeah. So yeah, it does have there's a resonating frequency. When you speak that language, your 3 nasal points here and your third eye start to vibrate and it starts to oscillate. You with me? And it's activated again, right? Yes.
I've been here with you, listening.
Yes, Mukdal.
I'm learning a lot, and I'm complete that you what you're saying.
Okay.
But at this point in time, because I give my word a bit elsewhere, I'm going to sleep off. It's most interesting. I hope to come back.
Most definitely, Mukdal. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Give him a round of applause.
Yeah. Thank you. Take care. Get home safe. So here's the depiction of Egg Island, okay, where Antarctica Egg Island is. So it's right off the coast of, you can see Peru, and literally from Peru to Antarctica is not that far. All right, but as we were saying earlier, Ganawa, it was one landmass at one point. So I'll just read on. Once in Orion, they'll be prepared to be taken to Kepler. So go and study again your astronomy, and you find out where Kepler, 225,600 light years from Earth to the Goldilocks zone, Alpha Centauri. Yeah, it's Alpha Centauri because I've looked it up. Yeah, it's not Centauri. Excuse me. A new Earth-like planet, just like this one, with no disease, virus, sickness, no flesh eaters. It is only for this new seed of melaninites, there to start anew. It was to take 6 years from 2024 AD to 2030 AD. Are you ready? No. Genetic markers. You're controlled by 6 etheric sex forces. Pleasures, delights. So does anyone know what genetic markers are? Sorry, it's not a test to make you feel just do you know what they are?
They are vaccines and that.
Okay, close, but yeah, genetic markers are within your DNA structure. Yeah, there's actually certain zones. Let's just say there's zones where extraterrestrials have placed markers there to know who their children are. You with me? Or to know how to express that that gene so that it can either switch off or switch on, be activated. You with me? So those genetic markers, the COVID was an actual thing to start off the demise of the Caucasian race and all other hybrids, because it was to actually reduce the population of the planet. So that's COVID is actually affects genetic markers, yeah. Okay. As for those left behind, this sun has a birth date and death date. The time will be shortened, and all the planets in the solar system will be drawn into the sun and become this star holocaust, explode and become a collapsed star, and all will be destroyed in 1 hour. It's called hellfire, and all hell and chaos has broken out in the Bible and Quranic lands because the children of the devil is there pretending to be the indigenous people. They are not. They are the cursed Europeans who invaded and immigrated there and took over. They removed the original blacks of those lands. Must this happen? No. Because like upstate Jazir Abba, Catskill Mountain, New York, when they came for you, you were not ready. The mark of the cursed seed mixed into your genes. The genetic markers cause you to hate self and kind, infighting, keeping you under the 6th ether spell of sleep, Leviathan. and this plan by ETs, extraterrestrials, based on the number 24, once this planet was repaired after the crash. Before the crash, its size was 48,000 miles in circumference on a time plan, and this sun is the light of the heavens and this planet of this solar system and its planets and moons. I mean, I don't need to say anymore. You want me to read it further? No? You want me to read further? Okay. All right. It is 93 million miles from this third planet. Its diameter is 853 million miles. It is 97,760,000 miles from this moon. This moon is 2,160 miles at its equator and 240,000 miles from the planet Earth. This planet Earth is 7,926 miles in diameter and 24,000 miles in circumference. Time is 24 hours in a day. Equinox time is 24,000 years. The needed resource element, as I was saying to you about the liquid gold, yeah, we have gold within us, okay? And that gold, again, allowed you interdimensional travel, okay? Plus the other, what they call monatomic gold. So monatomic gold consists of certain amounts of different elements. And when they've been vaporized, they become a single atom, which is lighter than a feather. So another way that the ancients depicted this was when they said your heart must be lighter than a feather. When you go into the halls of Amenti and your heart is weighed against a feather, you with me? So that's why the master's saying you must clean yourself inside out, because all your desires and lusts and stuff, you can't translate that, or you won't be able to translate that into the other dimensions. Because why? It becomes a disease in that realm. See what I'm saying? Yeah. The 24th part of pure gold. A portion of the human genome is 24,000. The end of each cycle is 24,000 years, begins anew. Their Bible and Quranic laws, given 1460 BC, Exodus 24:12, expired in 2000 AD. No more lies today. We hold the power of the sun in our very hands and know the truth. Such as this planet is a craft traveling at 67,000 miles per 24 hours around the sun. Its weight is 6 sextillion tons. Like Nibiru is just a planet craft flying through space. We place the moon exactly where it is to keep it in fit form and to observe its developments. The solar system has been returned to the Aldebarans of outside of northeast of Orion's star system. The Galactic Federation has removed this planet's membership in the United Galactic Federation. They were warned not to move forward with the second CERN project. You know about that? The CERN project, yeah? Does anybody else know about it or not familiar? I can just quickly tap on it if, okay. And did not respect the orders of the nine. Yeah, remember I mentioned the nine earlier and that the master teacher or Yanun is part of that nine, okay? It smashed the atom and ripped time and space, allowing many evil aliens to enter this dimension. The exit gate is now open. Why? All kinds of alien crafts are now being seen worldwide. Okay? Yeah.
A few questions.
Samuel?
Yes, Samantha.
There's well, there was a hand up on the Zoom, but there's questions on the Zoom as well. Just
I'm gonna try and get to them. Hold, is it still connected? All right, hold you, because I'm sure there's gonna be quite a few questions. If not pertaining to this or something else.
I can read the next question for you on Zoom.
Well, yeah, please do. Yeah, so me.
Okay, it's Rahubat.
Rahubat.
I would like to ask a question. I'm wondering about how it works when people speak positive but mean negative. For example, when someone thinks that you do something stupid and they call you a smart ass, what happens with the energy or frequency?
That's the question?
Is the intention more important or the meaning of the actual words? Well,
it's like me saying if I called you a donkey, are you a donkey? You know what I mean? You know, so it's sometimes. So I can say here as well as that.
It's a paper out of the
Can someone mute the mic? Mike, please.
You sure this works?
Is that upstairs? Okay, just things to mute the mic. Right. So it's basically words have meaning and also can convey or carry a power behind it. But it's how you receive it and whether you actually accept that meaning to be applied to you. Yeah. However, the reason why you're able to discern or actually interpret what somebody is trying to say to you, whether it's demeaning or a positive word, is because your mind or your brain carries a resonant frequency, a resonance. And when somebody is speaking to you, depending on their tone, your brain can pick that up as a wave. Okay, so if I speak to you in a calm tone and I approach you and my words are calm and also positive, your mind and your essence can actually feel that. And by the fact that you can feel that, you're also becoming more in a relaxed state, and your brain waves also pattern the brainwave of the person who's conveying the information. So you'll be able to discern by way of those frequencies whether that person is condescending or giving you a positive, what's it called, applaud or accolade or commenting you. So it all depends on those frequencies that you're able to pick up by your brain, and at the same time your essence, which is connected to your solar plexus, your soul will also know because you have a spiritual link. You make a literal link with that person when you're with them. And if you're in a very solid relationship with that person, whether it's, in a relationship of love or friendship, okay, or partnership, that person can actually feel your energy and you become synced in that way as well because they become part of your matrix. So it all depends. But at the end of the day, whether even if the words can be harsh or condescending in some shape or form, is how you receive it and whether you take that on board and allow it to affect you. It's just a bit like the English language and different languages out there. If you allow the English language to penetrate your being and you live by that, then it will affect you and it will affect the way you think and see and feel about things. But if you're able to then say, you know what, that's not me. This is what I live for and I strive for, and this is what I think. I change it to a positive. For example, we say, like, for instance, we don't say good morning because we know that that particular tone deals with death or deals with a particular negative connotation. So we would rather say grand rising or great day, something positive. So we always replace it. So you have the power. The power is within you. You have the ability to convert anything that's negative that's coming to you into a positive. You with me? That's you. You are as a supreme being. Yes, my brother. Yeah, please. Yeah. Rahul.
So if someone says good morning to me consistently, how is that having an effect on my energy?
That's what I was saying. You have the ability to convert that, change it. It's like the moon cycle and the sun cycle. You're a sun being. You're a 9 ether being. So you're able to take 6 ether and convert it into 9 ether. You with me? So negative words that come to you as a positive being, you should have the ability to actually convert that into a positive. You understand? Yeah, and don't not allow it to affect your being.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So in my reply,
you say grand rising or greetings or something that is positive. You with me? To counteract that. You with me? So that's what we do. Yeah. All right.
Lamal,
yes.
That leads into the next question by LK on Zoom.
It
says, greetings. My question is on the spell. Hello, hello. Since it's used on a daily basis, especially when answering a phone call, what word can be used to replace the spell hello?
You can choose several positive tones because really words are tones, vibration and frequency. That's why you keep that prevalent in your mind when you're dealing with words. They're just tones and music. That's what words are. I see you, my brother. So because that you keep that in check and and recognize that, replace it with something that has a positive tone. You with me? Or if you want to take it to the next level, if you're a Sabian, you can always reply back Rahubat. And then they're going to say, what's that? Then you've automatically opened a doorway to explain what Rahubat is. You with me?
Would hi work?
Hi.
Yeah.
Hi, if you want to use hi.
Hi.
Yeah, if you want to use hi, because it's a tone, it's a vibration of frequency. Look up the term, what actually, the connotation behind it. You with me? Because phonetically, okay, morning and morning have a phonetic connection. Yeah, so when you look into that and then you look into the frequency that it carries, yeah, are you in a morning state, which means that you're in a depressed state with me, which is connected to death, yeah, or you in a high state, you with me, which is connected to life. So you find things that are lively that you can say in reply to that person. Or, as I said, if you want to keep it to the next level, you say Rahubat. You're not going to say, what does that mean? And then you, like I said, you open up a dialogue now saying, well, Rahubat is a language that I speak. You with me? And in that tone, it means greetings. You with me? And then you say, what's that language? And then it's like you start a whole new dialogue. Okay. But yeah, just find words that can replace, because one of the things that we are as Sabians, okay, we're known as Wu-Nawap. And the word Wu-Nawap means those who replace. So we replace negative with the positive. You with me? Anything that's negative, we replace with the positive, and then give you, it's like we don't just strip away your foundation. We give you another foundation to see that you can stand on. You know, most people will say, oh, religion, burn that. You know what I mean? Burn religion. But what have you got to replace it with? Burn Christianity, burn this, but then what have you got to replace it with? So you replace it with your culture, your way of life. You know, what cultural celebration do you have? So anything that we do, we replace with the positive, okay? Because we're nine ether beings, okay? Rahubat.
Nuki Amakiket.
Rahubat Amakuket.
So, can I say something about the word morning when people say morning as well?
Yes, you can, but please might be mindful of the time because there's other people who have questions. So if it's a question, please state your question.
When someone says good morning, they're also referring to Lucifer, the morning star.
That's correct. That's correct.
That's what I wanted to say.
Okay, yeah, most definitely. Yeah, if for those who if I just elaborate more on that. So there's we say morning, and morning links into the morning star. The morning star is another title for Lucifer. Yeah, Lucifer, as you know, we all know who Lucifer is, right? Okay, so we know that he's a disagreeable negative being, but when you're saying good, remember that's a German word, which translates as God. So you're saying my God is Lucifer. You with me? Without even realizing that's what you're saying. So that's the danger of the English language, because they remove the true essence of it and they replace with something else. So good morning is good Lucifer, or
Morning means Lucifer.
yeah, the morning, because
There's
there's a part in Ezekiel, I can't remember the quote, where it says Lucifer, the son of the morning. Yeah. So Lucifer, the bearer of light, we all know that that's talking about the Illuminati, the disagreeable, negative, evil ones, or Luciferians. Then you also have the son of Shakar. Yeah, Shakar is another title for Enlil. You with me? So Enlil, and these are the ancient names for them.
Yeah.
You with me? But as it's trickled down into modern day life, we just use it as words. But these, when you go and study the languages of old, the Greek, etc., you find out that they go back into ancient words, which goes back into the Indo-European and the Indo languages and the Sanskrit and stuff. And then the further you go back, you start to realize they're not just talking about words. They're talking about beings. Like, for instance, when you say sin, sin is not just a word. Sin is a title or name for being known as Nana, who's the God of light and fire, who is your Lucifer, who also is your Christ that will be returning. You see what I'm saying? But unless, because he's known as the anointed Messiah, you see, and the word Messiah means, translated into Greek, is Christ. You see, so unless you know these names and words and titles, what they mean and the origin of them, That's why, again, as I said earlier, a being has been sent to demystify all the things, yeah, clear up the mess. Exactly. Okay. Online, is there any questions before Zoom? Any questions on Zoom?
Yeah, there's a question on Zoom, Jay.
Okay.
Question, why is it that us Nubians were chosen to serve in slavery, thus all our history and culture taken from us? We are at the bottom and suffered the most all over the world. I am wondering if this is so based on Yaqub's plan of deception.
Okay. There's different angles I can take this, but the last part of your question regarding whether it's to do with Yaqub, shows them up. Yaqub is a story about a gravitation, but it's not the gravitation of the Adamites. Okay, it's a gravitation of a particular set of beings known as the Flugorods, or in anthropology or paleontology, they refer to as the Cro-Magnon man. Okay, but this was done by extraterrestrials known as Pleiadians thousands of years before your Adamite story. The actual spell of Leviathan, which you were alluding to in your question, that spell is a spell that was cast on pretty much everyone, but it affected us because we were cut off from our ancestors and the reality and the realm of our ancestors was cut off from us. And in losing that divine connection, we were trapped in this spell, that six ether spell of not knowing who we are, racial blindness, ignorance of our true selves, etc. So the Adamites also then ended up mixing with us, who also had the spell, and the different how can I say, races that came from us also mixed in with us. So you have, for instance, you have your Adamites who gave birth to your different tribes on the planet, like your Edomites, your Sethites, your Canaanites. These are all different tribes that came from the Adamites, all the way down to your Canaanites. So these Canaanite tribes also mix in, and in the mixing in could produce different mentalities, produce different ways of thinking. That way of thinking, then also that spell of six ether forces also become part of us. It has also affected us. And in that six ether spell known as Leviathan, we also lost sight of who we truly were. Okay, so from that period on, these Adamites, some of them becoming cursed with what is known as, they call it leprosy, but it's actually a skin disease that caused some of them to become Caucasian and having blonde hair, blue eyes, etc. These were actually genetic alterations that happened within their DNA. And from that point onwards, the children of the Canaanites under the Amorites, the Jebusites, and there's another tribe, okay, migrated into our lands and took over. For instance, they came under names like the Hyksos. So when you read about, for instance, the Hyksos dynasty, the Hyksos were one tribe of Canaanites that came into our lands and they mixed in. And in mixing in, their seed, as it were, okay, took over our mental state. Their mental state affected us in the way we behaved, in the way we acted. And in us losing all of that, as time went on, the cycles went on, our mental state deteriorated to the point where we're no longer in the image and likeness of our ancestors. We're now living in the image and likeness of our oppressors. Okay. That came, when you move it forward, fast forward to the 1600s now, you had the Arab slave trade, and then you also had the West Coast slave trade. This was also another agenda to come and mix in with us so that they could take what is known as the plasma. Okay, there's actual, in their DNA, they don't have the ability to what's the word? Keloid. Okay, they're lacking a certain element known as, what's the name? I think it's fibrin. Okay, which is gives them can give them certain diseases. One of them being, what's the name of it? Not leukemia. What's the other one? What's the blood disorder?
Sickle cell.
No, not sickle cell. No, sickle cell's artery. Sickle cell's artery.
Hemophiliac?
Hemophilia. Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah. So hemophilia is one of the things that was prevalent in their DNA. Okay. And from that, they mixed it in. One of the reasons for the slave trade or slave kidnapping was to mix our DNA with theirs in order to strengthen their genetic factors. Okay. So the genetic factor, if you go and research about blood, there's something in your blood called plasma. Okay. Plasma contains the antibodies, and those antibodies allows you to clot. Okay. And this is why they offer babies when they're born vitamin K, and they say that will help with the clotting because they're lacking certain factors. So they'll tell mothers to, have a baby, either take it orally or inject it because, or force it. Yeah. So, but you can stand your ground. Yeah. But yeah, essentially all of these factors, okay, is what's happened to us over many, many years. And in them tying into our vine, in them tying into our genetic seed, okay, they've been able to then manipulate us to the point where we now do it to our own selves. We know we actually now involuntary eat the wrong foods, or sometimes voluntary eat the wrong foods. We now cussing and swearing. I refer back to this particular update again, and I read it out again, where it says, right, as it says, the mark of the cursed seed mixed into your genes, okay? The genetic markers caused you to hate self and kind, infighting, keeping you under the sixth ether spell of sleep, Leviathan. And this plan by ETs, extraterrestrials, based on the number 24, once this planet was repaired after the crash. So the emphasis I'm making is that there has been mixing of our seed for a very long time, and that appears on your genetic markers. So these genetic markers is part of the reason why we are fighting, because if we're dealing with chromosomes and DNA, when a couple comes together, now obviously we're so mixed in, we don't know what's in our gene pool, okay? But prior to then, when we're in our purest state and two chromosomes came together and then the mixing started, those genes are crossed over, yeah? The characteristic traits, the inheritance, the diseases, is all crossed over into the child, okay? So that child then will carry those traits. They're not necessarily expressed or dominant. They're just asleep. However, these extraterrestrials know that after a certain period of time, which is normally runs around about 300 to 400 years, is a generational cycle. So the new generation, they knew by that time, from the year 1960s, 70s, etc., these children are going to start waking up, because you've gone from the slave trade of the 1400s, 1600s, 1600 plus the year 2000 will make exactly 400, which they know is a generation. So they knew and planned that by that time we'll be so far gone, we'll be so far removed from our ancestral lineage, that when a being comes and says, you know what, you're this, you're that, you can do this, you can do that, we must unite, etc., they will reject it. So they knew that in getting into our genes, they will then affect our minds, because your genes is also determines how you think. Yeah, going back to language and living your culture, it all determines and shapes your reality. So they knew by the time that this being would come, we were so messed up, scrambled genetically and mentally, that we will question him about something that we should already know. You with me? We will doubt the things that he's come to teach us. Like, you're not Muslims, you're not Jews, you're not none of these things, you're ancient Africans, and this was your way of life. Go to the pyramids, you can see your images. There was forerunners before the master teacher. There was Dr. Ben. There was Sheikh Antadil. There's many still now, still trying to teach people that you're not Europeans. Come out of their mental state, come out the way they think, etc. Be who you are, Africans. You with me? But it's a journey that has to be taken by each individual, and they have to make the conscious decision. Like I said earlier, you have to make a conscious decision that this resonates with you. If it resonates with you, and you made a conscious decision to take a step in the right direction, to embrace who you are as your ancestors, that's when nature's forces, your true relatives, your ancestors, will start to work through you. It's not this isn't religion. You see what I'm saying? Like I said, we're not trying to find masses of people to just convert them. Yeah, it has to resonate with your DNA because, as I said earlier, your DNA has coding. Yeah, and if anyone knows about computers, there's a hard code. Yeah, that's the source code that's imprinted. But that imprinting goes back into your spiritual matrix. Yeah, so that source code is still there, but it's dormant. It needs to be activated. Who knows about Number 5 is Alive? No, you ever watched that program? Was it called Short Circuit? You know about Short Circuit? Old school movies, yeah. 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 So you know about Short Circuit, how he came alive, right? Electricity sparked him. You with me? And then he came alive. So for those who don't know, the analogy I'm making is that something had to spark you, yeah, for you to come alive again. Yeah, for you to know who you truly are. And then if you go and watch the movie, he started asking questions. He started wanting to know who's this, what's that. He downloaded all of these things into his memory bank. So the same thing again, you have to start remembering who you are. Download it into your memory bank again. Your DNA is alive, is thinking, but you have to activate it. So that's what short circuit is. It's a short circuit. This is what DNA Wu-Sabat is. It will activate and link you back into your answers of who you truly are. Okay? I hope that answers that question.
I don't get that shock then.
How'd you get that shock?
Yeah.
When you feel it's right, because it's a journey. You with me? You're coming to your consciousness. You're asking certain questions because that divine within you is beginning to wake up. It's not by coincidence that you're here. That's what you need to realize. Somebody in your genetic pool has prompted you and actually got you here. But unless you recognize that as being real to you, it's just going to be, oh, I got one day, I was walking past the shop and I saw this sign and I was attracted to it. But who got you to be attracted to it? Because what the masters explained to us is you have 30 ancestors, some agreeable, some disagreeable, that are in your DNA, in your fiber of your being, okay? And what happens is sometimes when that DNA encoding is ready to, it's like a plant. When that plant's ready to blossom or to spread, okay, certain DNA or instructions are then activated in that plant. You're like a plant, yeah, or, you know, as another way of showing it, and your DNA is being activated, whether you are aware of it or not. And that DNA is linked into your ancestors. You with me? So somebody in your genetic pool is saying, you know what? It's time to wake up. It's time for you to know who you really are. However, because this information is a genetic doctrine, which means that it has to resonate with you, it's not for me to try and convince you that it's for you. You have to learn, study, read, go and seek out other people, question what they have against this, and see whether we have what we're saying is real and it makes sense and it works for you. If it doesn't, to be yours. To be yours, be yours, and be mine, be mine. But if you're of that genetic pool, like you mentioned earlier, because we had that conversation, you are Bantu. If you are Bantu, then your Bantu genetics go back to these beings. You with me? Because they're the ones that seeded this planet. Yeah? And this being has been sent to resurrect those children because we are the children of the Natharu. Yeah? Just that we've been scattered. That's what's happened. And forgotten.
Rahubat.
Rahubat.
The master teacher is the door and we are the key coming to Wu-Sabat. So whatever information the master teacher, Dr. Marakazio, is giving to us, then our minds will open up and be aware to what he's teaching, and our job is to wake everyone else up, like through Clubhouse.
Thank you. Tell that, Zamal. Appreciate your input. Any further questions?
Rahubat, I have a question.
Rahubat, Zamal.
page 123 of the Great Pricetism, it states that Merlin the magician who appeared to Nimrod was actually Satan in the flesh. And my question is, would this mean that Merlin the magician was a shapeshifted form of Nenarsen?
Yes, yes. Or one of the many incarnations. But yeah, essentially, yeah. Because again, we have to realize that it's not just our master teacher or beings that have the ability can come through or incarnate and work through some of their children. Does that make sense? So being that Merlin, even though they give you as a mythical person, okay, he did exist. And the being that was working through him at that time would have been Nana. Does that make sense?
Total.
Any more questions on that? So who's Merlin? What's this about incarnations? Anyone want to know further? Probe? Yeah, go ahead. Who's got a question? Okay, go ahead. Use the mic, please.
I don't want to go too onto religion, but it's just,
if you have to, my brother, because remember, it only helps not just you, but it helps others who are maybe wanting that question answered.
So I was reading his story, and the master teacher goes into Leviticus and verses 1 to 10.
Okay.
Where first of all, who wrote is it right to say that Moses wrote Leviticus?
The books were actually the Numa Elish and the Gilgamesh epics, which was given to Thutmose. You with me?
Okay.
Because remember, we know that Moses, that being then is actually Tahutimos. Yeah. So the information that was given to him would have been laws for the Adamites. So continue. Levitical Levi means law, remember? Lawi. So it's from the word Lawi, and the word Lawi means law. So these Levitical priests were the ones that were responsible for keeping those Adamites in check, or the ones that came from Goshen in check. And they were the ones that will be given like how can I say, they'll be like the overseers for the Canaanites, the Adamite Canaanites, the stock of Adamites known as the Canaanites.
Okay, that makes sense to my question, because obviously Leviticus 1 to 10 is about the burnt offering. So as I was reading it and understand who Tautimus was, I was baffled on why it was talking about him and Lot giving this offering of flesh and blood to their Lord, when the Lord is supposed to be Tahuti, if I got that right. Well,
okay, there are many lords. First know that Nabab or Neb, it means Lord or Master. Yeah, so there's many lords and masters. And Lord will be called a Baal, for instance, will be interpreted as Lord in the Bible. Yeah, but that would mean Enlil. So these are just titles. Yeah. So the title of Nana at one time would have been what's the word? Lord, or another name for him would have been Yahweh or Yahuwah. Just I'm saying, depending on what position he was playing at the time. Yeah. So Tahutimos at one time was approached by what to call it, Michael or Tahuti. That's why his name Tahutimos. And then other times, remember, this is your biblical Moses is actually, you're gonna have to keep that in mind. Your biblical Moses is actually Tahutimos. Yeah. And the reason why is you have the word Tahutimos is because you're showing you that he was a student of Tahuti. You understand? So him being a student of Tahuti, there's certain information that he was to give. In fact, there's a Patarak called Tahuti and Tahutimos, which goes into all of that. So he was the one that led the Hyksos out from Egypt with me and into the lands which their so-called Lord promised them.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah. But the Levitical priests, they were like given instructions for doing the offerings to these extraterrestrials. So anything to do with circumcision and keeping them in order and making sure the blood sacrifices was being done was so that this was done by the Levitical priest, because you're looking at the word Lawi and Atan, Lawi Tanan or Leviathan. So Lawi or Levitical, it ties into those people or group that were known as the priests that upheld the Leviathan principles. You with me?
Okay.
Does that make sense?
It does.
Okay. Go ahead and probe further if you want.
So that being said, that did come from Tahutimos.
What came from Tahutimos?
The book or the...
No, remember, these Atrahasis, Enuma Elish, and Gilgamesh epics, these are Anunnaki scrolls. These are Sumerian scrolls. And what was done was that the Neb at that time, or the master at that time, Tammuz, just made it easier for them to understand, but it was then presented to him, and the person who guided Tahutimos or taught him certain things would have been Tahuti. Does that make sense? Because he also was a student of Tahuti. Yeah, it's like you have in Ramos, yeah, or you have well, other name can I give that is a student of somebody? You mean you got different students who came under different schools. They just put it that way. Like for instance, you have Asar. There was a school of Asar, the Asarian school, or they call it Asaru. The word U at the end means that it denotes a school. You have the school of Har or Haru. Yeah, in that school, he would have been called Re Ha Akhatwi. You see what I'm saying? In denoting that he was a student of that school. You with me? Even though they interchangeably, you could be a student of many different schools, and you would inherit those particular titles based on those schools that you were in. Does that make sense? So Atum Re, Amun Re, etc., would have been the school of Re, one of the highest principles. You see what I'm saying? Yeah.
Last one.
Go ahead.
So, because Moses and Lot are mentioned within that, is that plagiarized within the Leviticus 1 to 10? That's what I'm getting at, because their names are mentioned that Lot must do this.
Okay. I'm not familiar with that unless another master teacher, but I'd have to probably read it again in order to understand the context.
Fine.
Yeah, all right. But yeah, I haven't, I'm not too sure of that. Any other questions?
Robert?
Robert, do you have a question, Zama?
Yes, I do.
Go ahead.
Is Bernatinu and Anunnaki family?
Family, how would you describe family? Because they worked together at one time. They have worked together, but it's not that they're, you're from my family, because they're from a different etheric connection. You with me? Then Parnataru.
Are they somehow related?
In as far as some of them being Etherians, you with me? Like for instance, when you say Anu is an Etherian. Does that make sense? Yeah, and then you have different levels of Etherians. But in the galactical scheme of things, really and truly, the relations is only dealing with just you. I am who I am. You with me? Or all is in all. That's why you'll be able to distinguish who you are, because you've raised yourself to a certain level where you've given up the flesh, etc. But in the incarnation as a being, you're limited by those principles, because then you start to live in the image and likeness of whatever planet you're on. And the longer you stay here, the more you become engrossed in that planet that you're on. So this is why certain beings would have to leave, repair themselves or rejuvenate themselves, and then come back. Or there's certain herbs and elixirs that they will take in order to elongate their life, because the longer you stay here, the more you come engrossed in this realm. You see what I'm saying? So on that level, as species or as a being, a physical being on this planet, some of the Anunnaki mixed with some of the Nataru. Like for instance, the Hisat mixed with Enki. to produce Ningish Zida, and Haysat would have been a descendant of the Nataru by way of her Egyptian lineage, yeah, ancient Egyptian lineage. And then you have Enki, who would have been of the Anunnaki lineage by way of his mother and his father. Does that make sense? And then from that arranged mixing or marriage produced Ningish Zida. And Ningish Zida, as we read, was an Anunnaki. You with me? So it all depends on what level you're dealing with. But on the level of in the galactical scheme of things, everyone is your brother and your sister as long as you've raised yourself to that level of recognizing I am who I am and I'm in the love of all and all love is a part of me. Does that make sense?
Tua, Tower Attack.
Antakatira falls them out.
Robert, I have a question.
Tua.
Is there any Sumerian text that says Enki or Enlil tried to usurp the title of Anu or Most High?
I can't remember if there's. I'm sure there's one of the old what do they call it? Supreme Mathematics books, but I'll be guessing. If anybody can post it, please do. But there is an usurper who was Alelu, who tried to take over Anu's position. Are you familiar with that story?
Yeah, I'm familiar with that one.
Yeah.
But speaking of, a brother was talking about Enlil.
Yeah.
Trying to take the throne of Anu. And I'm saying I haven't seen any Sumerian text.
No, I haven't read it where the master's broken that down. Explain that. Why'd you ask that question?
No, I was saying there was another brother who was saying that.
Oh,
I asked him,
right.
He didn't know, so I was.
Oh, okay.
I wanted to know if anybody else had that information.
Yeah, I do not have any information on that. I mean, there's the Anunnaki and the Quranic, I think it's upstairs. The Anunnaki and the Quranic family or something like that, where it goes into the lineage of the Anunnaki and who married who and who took what, etc. But it's essentially that story I don't know, I'm not familiar with. Okay, let me go on to Zoom. Anybody got questions on Zoom, Zamalta?
Sure. But someone had their hand up, but I can't see it. I was going to let them go. But anyway, the next question is, who are the Orcarians or Arconians?
Oh gosh. The master teacher hasn't gone too much on that. It's mentioned in the Akasha records, I think. In the Akasha records, he just gives a list of extraterrestrials, but he hasn't gone into depth about who the Arconians is. I know that Enki's mother is an Arconian, yeah, of reptilian heritage. So whoever's asking that question, you have to kind of like expand your mind to the realization that there's much mixing in the universes or in certain galaxies and certain constellations before the coming to Earth. So some of these extraterrestrials had a reptilian heritage, okay, going all the way back. So the Arconians are of reptilian heritage, and Enki's mother, she was of that heritage. And that produced from him, he was a Homo saurian. That's what the master teacher explained, that he's a Homo saurian. So you have many reptilian-like humanoids who are on this planet and have been here and have been mixing in with human beings. So some can pass off as looking human because of the breeding and the experiments that have been going on and the mixing in that's been going on. So you have to bear in mind there's been a lot of mixing in. And that's why some of us have got these traits in us, whether it's disagreeable trait or positive trait or physical trait, like having eczema or a sloped back head or puffy fingers or wedged between our fingers, and many other what they call deformities, but they're actually extraterrestrial DNA that are just expressing themselves or have expressed themselves, and it looks uncomfortable, it may be hideous or unsightly to look at. But the majority of it is because of extraterrestrial mixing in that's taken place over the years. Okay, so I hope that answers that question. Any further questions on that, please ask. There are many books that go into detail on this. There's one particular book I was reading is Shambhala and Agatar, Cities Within the Earth. If you can get that old publication under in that scroll, it goes into extraterrestrials and mixing in and beings that have been living here for thousands of years that have now literally come past as human, but you wouldn't know that they're extraterrestrials. Okay. Hard for people to swallow, I know. It's hard to swallow, but like I said, look at the traits, the genetic traits that express themselves in children or people when they're either traumatized, etc. These are not just random things that have happened. You're talking about genetic traits that go back thousands and thousands of years, okay, through mixing. And if you want the proof, go and study people like the Dogon. The Native American tribes talk about beings coming from the earth and mixing with them. You talk about the Dogon, who had extraterrestrials or beings coming from the Sirius star system, and then they mixed in with them and produced, children for them. Because a lot of these extraterrestrials, they have the ability to change their genetic structure, or they can transform and look just like you and I, and keep their genetic heritage. So these are the realities that a lot of religious people cannot swallow. And I'm not saying to just accept it, but if you look in your religious books, you see there's a talking snake. Hello? Yeah, a snake wrapped around a tree talking to a female. Are you going to really hang around and want to speak to this snake? Or are you going to leg it? Or was it a talking snake in the sense that it was metaphorical? That is actually not, he was of a snake species, but he just was speaking, and what language was he speaking that Eve could understand him? These are the things you need to think about, if you're in the religious mindset. How does a snake talk, but yet it can't talk now? What happened to his larynx? Because you need a larynx to talk. So these are the things that we put to you in Wu-Sabat, and you like, I never thought about it that way. Yeah, that's what the master teacher's done with us. So, any questions?
Yeah, we have another one on Zoom, Zaman. The Miss Batia has some similarities with Arabic. I mean, are plenty words in Arabic. Why?
Because the Arabic, the Hebrew, all the so-called Semitic languages, okay, actually came from Miss Batia. Because you have to realize the first language on the planet was ancient, what they call hieroglyphs, but the language spoken was Misbatia or Nawapic. You see, there was a spoken script, and there was a written script. So the written script was actually known as Safuf, okay? And that Safuf or Safaf came down, and it got broken down into heretic, and then from heretic to demotic, and from demotic, it came down into other people taking the language and then writing it into their own shape and form. So what you have to ask yourself is the word Arab, the word Arab, how far back does it go? You with me? Go and look it up if you look into the Bible, you have the descendants, and one of them is called Arab or Aram. Yeah, where you get the word Aramic from. You also have the word Naftuhim. Okay, and when you go and look up Naftuhim, it says a particular race of people or indigenous people who spoke this a particular language, but they don't know what the language is. Well, Naftuhim, when you look at the word Napata, okay, you're looking at the Pataites who spoke this language, and these Pataites are the ancient Egyptians who lived in the Sudanese and down into South America, all the way up into what they call modern day Egypt. Okay, they spoke that language of Napata. And then you find a place called Napata and Meroe. And Meroe is where the Queen of Sheba, also known as Bilqis or Nakibu, sorry, Makeda, she's also spoke this particular language. She tried to reintroduce it in her time when she reigned. So there are parallels, similarities, and archaeological finds of this particular language if you go take your time to go and research it. So many people will say it sounds like this, but then go and look at the origin of the language. And also the word Arab also means reddish, brown, okay, or inclining to pink. Go and look up the word Arab and what it means. It means mingled seed. Don't believe me, go and check it out. So anthropologically too, if you go and research who the Arabs are actually Caucasians. So you have the light Caucasians or mixed Caucasians who come from Arab, who are the descendants of Ishmael. And then you also have the other tribe who are descendants of Israel, or whose name was known as, is it Jacob? I can't remember his name. Is it Jacob who became Israel? Yeah, something like that. I can't even remember. I don't even read those things anymore. But I think Jacob, his name became changed to Israel, and then you had from that you had the Israelites, and they gave their language then became what you know as the Hebraic or Hebrew language. You with me? But okay, let's turn that off. GPS as well. Sorry, bear with me a second. I'm gonna interrupt the boss. Okay, so yeah, you have these languages that the ancient Napatan language or the ancient Sabaic language predates all of them, going back to the ancient Egyptian hieroglyphs and also the Safuf, okay, which is our language spoken by us before the Sumerian language came about, which gave birth to all of these other languages, or should I say dialects, that sprang off from it. One of the places you can find it, if you want to look at a biblical reference, you go into the Tower of Babel, where it tells you about this so-called God confused the tongues, and then they were spread out and all over the world, and then they spoke these languages. But then you have to look at the lineage as well of the names, and you see that the names pertain to some of the languages as well. Okay, so just do your little research in Book of Genesis from chapter 10 onwards. You start to see who begat this and who begat that, and then you see, oh, hold on, that's Aramic, that's like Judah, you know, and you start seeing the how these languages sprang from, okay, from the names of the characters. Okay. I hope that answered that question. I mean, if I was to go into more detail, it will take up a lot of time. So I'll refer you to a book called what's it called now? The Ancient Language of Time, which is have we got it upstairs? Our book. Yeah, the language of time. Yeah. It says Nuwapic, the ancient language is not up there. Okay. But in that book, it goes into much more detail about the whole true origin of languages. Okay. Anybody else online or in here right now? Any more questions, or is it too much to take in at the moment? Okay. So before you have that, I've got a question in the temple.
Okay.
You were talking earlier about the you mentioned about the mixing of genetics
Mm-hmm.
and I think it's the plasma that they will need certain of our genetics to help them survive, yeah?
Mm-hmm.
Was it Enki that was giving them like the rulers of the world with this information so that they could like take from us and then like mess us up also at the same time?
Not necessarily Enki, more the disagreeable one. Enki wanted the divine. You see, he was looking for the divine in his creation, the Adamites.
Mm.
Yeah, Enlil was the one that was opposing Enki because he saw them as disgusting animals, because from his order, yeah, you don't mix with lower beings. You see what I'm saying? They were animals and they were filthy. So why are you genetically experimenting with that? So more so Enlil, that would have been the ones. So remember there was two factions, Enlil's side and Enki's side. How you know this? Because in the Bible it shows you the names like Nehemiah and Ezekiel. Yeah, when you're saying Ezekiel, you're saying that that's Enlil, Baal. Yeah, that's his seed that he would have worked through. Then you have Nehemiah would have been Yahweh, which would have been Enki. You see, so you had seeds or factions, just like you have today, Labour Party and, you know what I mean, Democrats or whatever. So within Enlil's seed and who he worked with, which was the Luciferian Pleiadians.
Enlil is the bad one, isn't it?
To us.
Agreeable.
Us. Yeah. Because to what he's doing, he's concerned.
Yeah,
exactly. All right, yeah. So Enlil, that way, he has been contacting, you see what I'm saying? He's the hybrid children that are working from the demigods. So these demigods, by way of Nana, who was able to convince X amount of extraterrestrials to come here. This is where you read about your story of the fallen angels. It was Nana who was able to convince X amount of them to come here, see these Enoshite women, and then rape them. You see what I'm saying? And then from the rape, it produced a mental instability and also genetic instability, where they were eating and fighting and warring, etc. So that gene of the Adamites, okay, has manifested, okay, and is prevalent in the Caucasian race because they mixed in with other beings that were on the planet.
Like I have another quick one. So you see that the other Anunnaki scientist one. What's his name again?
Nergal?
No, another one. The one with the big head.
Yakub.
Yeah.
Yeah, Yakub was a descendant of the Anunnaki. He wasn't a direct Anunnaki. He was he was of the Dunakil. That's what probably you're trying to find.
What I'm just trying to get at is, where did they get the information from?
Yeah, I was getting to that. So I was getting to that, okay, yeah. So your Pleiadians, your Anunnaki, etc., they telepathically influence beings on the planet.
Okay.
You with me? They utilize some what they call, when you read the Akasha records, it talks about certain stones. So these are what it refers to as technological magical stones. With me? And these stones, they're able to literally utilize the frequency and the vibration of these stones to channel frequencies into the minds of the Adamites and control them, unbeknown to them, because they were made in their image and their likeness. So the genetic, how can I say, the genetic encoding is encoded for them to do certain things, because
they're sending a download to their mind.
Exactly, they're sending a download. Exactly. Yeah. So they work on their behalf. Some know who they are, and some, just like their minions, they just follow like sheep. Do you see what I'm saying? So that's what they're known as, the Lulu Amelu. The original name for them is the Lulu Amelu, which is big primitive sheep. And these big primitive sheep were actually created for food. So when it talks about Abel was tending for the sheep or looking after the sheep, he was talking about beings that would be food for the gods. That was the faction of Enlil, who were carnivorous and meat eaters. Do you understand?
Yeah.
So yes, but they literally are sending radio frequencies into this planet, and they are picking it up. And from them picking it up, they operate and work on these frequencies. That's why their mental state is wicked, because they're being operated on mentally without them even being aware of it. You know, they act on impulse. And then obviously it came to a point where the Adamites mixed in with the Canaanites, and then you had different mentalities again shifting from the original Adamite seed. You see, when I have to go biblical, because most of the time you won't see the picture until you kind of like piece it together. So in the biblical, it talks about Abraham telling his family not to mix in with the seed of the Canaanites, because he knew that they were a genetically weaker gene pool. And in the mixing in, when Esau and all of them, these children of Abraham descendants, mixed in with the Canaanites, it produced a more wicked and degenerative mentality. You see? And this is what you can see in their culture, because all they're about is about killing, whoring, lusting. And obviously now we've mixed in with them, we're doing the things that they've been doing, or they do. Yeah. But yeah, it's a frequency that's being emitted into their mental state, into their minds. Yeah. 10 more minutes I've got. Okay.
Welcome back, Zama.
Wait a second, one more question in the store and then I'll take yours, yeah?
Okay.
All right, Tautak.
So just listening to what you were saying to answer the brother's question, if Enki didn't do anything in the first place, would, like, I'm not saying we'll be in a better position necessarily, because obviously they came here on a mission.
Yeah.
But him doing that, did it make the situation potentially worse?
Definitely, most definitely, because I don't know if you remember the last classes I did regarding the origin of the Adamites and how they were made, and Enki. If you weren't here, it doesn't matter because it's a very long class, yeah. But they never sought the permission from Anu, and they never considered the ecological imbalancement that it would have on the planet, because everyone's genome is tied to the planet, 24,000 years circumference. You see what I'm saying? Which is linked to your genetic makeup, your matrix. So because of that, when Enki did the experiment where he was able to take the genus Homo and then upgrade it, he took the genes to, they did it on Mars. That was one of the places that they did it in a laboratory. They also brought the genes to Earth. So the masters explain is that at the Adamites, their genetic lineage is to Mars and Earth. You see, by way of their matrix, their genetic matrix. Sorry, that's why that's one of the reasons why they took to Mars.
Yeah. Makes sense now.
Yeah. So these Enki's genetic manipulation of the beings here did affect the ecology and did affect the matrix of the planet. Does that make sense? Yeah. And then obviously from us mixing in, it shifted Earth's genetic gene pool, as it were, Earth's matrix. It unbalanced the ecology. And what happens is sometimes the breathing of certain animals or the defecating of certain animals actually affects the planet's ecology. That's why certain species have to go. So that's what we're saying about the Canaanites or the Adamites. By way of what they've been doing, they have to go as a species because nature can't tolerate the what they've done. Exactly. But yes, Enki did kind of like what's the word? Speed up the process. Do you know what I mean? Without considering all these different factors. Yeah.
One more question. Sort of related to that. So Enlil and his dominion, was that Mesopotamia? Is that right?
That's correct.
Yeah.
That's exactly correct.
Okay, so
in fact, a particular place called Baalbek. Yeah, Baalbek. That was his home, like his main place where he did the operations from. Baalbek. Look it up.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. This is coming on to the question then. So obviously I look into my history and I look into the people of history. The Persians. Were they of this Mesopotamian stock?
Good question. There's always the mixed ones the Persians were Canaanite Persians, you see what I'm saying? And also of darker skin or African descent Persians. So in every, like for instance, the Adamites, remember they weren't originally Caucasian. Yeah, the Adamites were originally of African and Dravidian. And then as time went on, their genetics changed because of certain interceptions that Pleiadians were doing and other Aldebarans, beings from Aldebaran, and beings were stepping in and altering their genetics to favor them. So the Pleiadians eventually were able to create a creature that by way, you see all these curses that they talk about? These are genetic alterations that was being done on the Adamites to the point where they eventually became the hue that they are now. So you have two stocks of Adamites, the darker reddish tone and the clear white to, what's the word? pearly, yeah, pale tone.
Pearly white.
Yeah, pearly white. You with me? So there was two stocks of Adamites, and obviously one favored more than the other, to the point where one took over the other, and then merged them all together and became your Adamites of that we know of today. Does that make sense? Yeah. Okay. Yes, Khuket. Is it Khuket? Who's the one had a question online? Amal Khuket. There, Rahubat Zama. What's your question?
Rahubat Zama. You know, who was the God who told Abraham to put his son on the altar, please?
As far as I remember, that would be Enlil.
So Enlil eats humanoids.
Yeah, there's one side that are reptilian or carnivorous or cannibalistic, and there's another side who are also herbivores or eat, we'll say, I'll just say plants. You see what I'm saying? Are herbivores. So not all extraterrestrials are cannibalistic or eat flesh. You with me? It's something that over a certain period of time, like Nana, for instance, he's of disagreeable and he's into the flesh eating. With me, so that's his choice or menu. Preference. Yeah, preference. There you go. Yeah, and then you also have, because the reason why these beings like that particular taste, as the masters explain, is that it gives them certain energies that they can survive of. It's like any creature, a particular creature needs a certain type of substance in order to subsist, or in order to live and be strong. So for them, it's evil ether energy. And that evil ether energy is produced when you eat certain foods. So that's what the master said, stay off the meat, because the meat, you give up a certain particular energy, yeah, and frequency that these beings are attracted to. And then they see you as food. Does that make sense?
That's called menu.
That's what it's called, menu. There you go. Exactly. Yeah, go ahead.
Peter, but I'm gonna stop soon. I know I think, oh my God.
They lick the lips with their tongue. Listen, yeah, but yes, we've been as the woman has always explained to us, we should try and stay off the meat because we'll be on the menu. You with me? And also we don't eat certain bovines because it's linked into who our ancestors protected and got and protected, i.e., or who were over certain animals. Like for instance, Amun was over the bovines, which include all kind of cattle that have, hoofed feet, etc. Then there's another being who was over the fowls, and there's another being that was over the humans. So Tahuti, right? Tahuti would have been over the humans, okay, and any simians, etc. That would have been any. When I'm saying simians, I'm not just talking about monkeys. I'm talking about ape men, etc. All the way down to etc. All these certain beings that we call the ape or the simian, Tahuti would have been over them. That's why he is explained, yeah, that he was over their creation, because he was part of one of the masters involved in creating them. So he knows their nature better than they do. Does that make sense? Hello? You disappeared. Zamal? Okay. Oh, you're here. Okay. Right. Okay. Any last burning question? Well, actually, we've gone over now. So if there's anybody that's down to our moderator in class, our security, any questions anymore?
Don't mind.
It's down to you. Not to me. Down to me.
Okay, so
yeah, 2 more. All right, we'll keep it short.
I'll keep it short. Yeah. So you see, you mentioned earlier that gold helps you travel
interdimensional.
Dimensions.
Yeah.
Is that some of the reason why Nike decided to stay here too? Because they need that to travel.
That was one part, but that was go. So could someone turn the mic off, please? Total. Yeah, gold was, yeah, so it has different functions, yeah, that you can use gold for. But yeah, it was part of that, it was to help them and also to protect them. Yeah.
And you see that we got gold inside us as well, yeah.
We have gold that we can
So we
activate.
go to that different dimensions, like spiritually, and
Also
physically with the
physically.
gold too as well.
That's right.
Like with crafts and that.
Yeah.
Okay.
But it's not gold as the physical gold. It has to be converted into something called monatomic. Yeah, it means one atom. Yeah, which is light, very, very light, because it has the ability to transcend into different dimensions. So this gold has to be pure and burnt at particular heat in order to convert it into that particular monatomic element. Yeah. All right.
Zamal, you have two hands up on Zoom.
Okay.
TBJ.
Two more.
Another quick one.
Yeah.
Hello, greetings.
Yes, go ahead.
Yeah, I'd like to know from your understanding, you know Haile Selassie, yeah? Was he connected to the ancient rulers of Tamaray from your understanding?
He was, if you say ancient Tamaray, all of us are, just in some shape or form. But if you took the emperor that was destined to come on the throne, etc., no, he actually worked his way up through marrying into the family of the Meneliks. You see, Haile Selassie was not a Menelik. He was actually a governor of a particular region in Ethiopia. And then what happened was when he married into the family, he eventually worked his way up to become crowned by who? As we know, the Queen of England. You see what I'm saying? Yeah. So she actually recognized him, and from what they call prophecy done by what's his name? Gosh, what is his name now? Marcus Mosiah Garvey. Okay, they kind of like tried to put that together and then say that he was he was the emperor or the child that was born, the Christ that was going to become and redeem people. But that's not what he actually was. He was not about that. You know, even when you look at in his name. But we can explore that in another class. I'm sure some student teachers will be more than happy to give that information to you. So I'm being very quick and succinct about it, but I'm aware of the time and there's another two more hands up. So yeah, go ahead, Zama.
Marcus Garvey was totally against Selassie.
Yeah, like I said, we won't go into any more of that because there's a hand up by TBJ. Have I already answered your question?
Rahubat. This is Irma from the US.
Oh, Rahubat.
My question is this. Being that we're so deficient in food and right eating and pollution and things like that, there was someone that was selling gold and the vitamins, you know, as a nutritional factor. I guess one of your brothers, not in the sect, but doing almost similar things. So I was wondering, should I make an investment? But if you're saying it has to be structured a certain way to inseminate in our bodies, is it an investment I should take?
Are you talking about monatomic gold, or are you just talking about gold, the actual raw element?
Well, I'm talking about gold that he's managed the way to infuse into the vitamins so that we can ingest. So I'm saying,
okay, I'm with you. So
I know I have to be deficient living on this planet. So
yeah, that's talking about monatomic gold. What the master said about that is don't be fooled by all these claims. You with me?
Okay.
Yeah, monatomic gold is something that has to be done in a particular way, and he will be able to show us that, or be able to activate the female who can actually has it in very small dosages. They actually refer to a female when she's carrying a child or has given birth to a child called colostrum. Yeah, if you're going to research colostrum, yeah, colostrum is something that gives all the child is antibodies, etc. When it's just a literal thimbleful, that's all the baby needs, but it activates the child's antibodies within the child. Okay.
Well, I believe that Dr. J sent me the text while we were online about the book, the feminine book that I need to purchase, but of course it's out of stock as well.
Oh, right, I see. Yeah, so yeah, that's what I can say is try and keep all the updates and things like that if you can, and if we can post certain things, information regarding that. The book itself, what's the name now?
The feminine.
What's the name of the book called? I'm terrible when it comes to that. I should really be knowing my books, the name and titles.
Was that?
Yeah, Mafkuzat. There you go. Mafkuzat. Because it mentions in there about how the female can be activated, because then in her being activated, she can then activate the male. Okay. And the male and both of them will become supreme beings or gods who can give birth to a golden child. So that's why he breaks down in there.
Well, I'm past childbearing age and I'm single. So
Fair enough. Okay. Last one from Els.
thank you.
Is it? You're welcome. Atira falls him out. LZ, did you have your hand up?
Kidman, you already asked my question.
Okay. Okay, total. I think that was it then. Anything else? No?
Two quick ones.
Two?
Just two quick ones.
You're being greedy.
The Thorian, mentioned in the Bible, isn't it, as some, I don't know if I'm correct though. Is a beast that's mentioned in the Bible mentioned some type of sea beast?
Leviathan.
Is that the same thing you mentioned earlier?
That's what I mentioned earlier.
You
Yeah.
did, yeah?
Yeah.
All right, cool.
Read. I would urge you, if you can, read Supreme Mathematics, Shambhala and Agartha. Yeah, that's a easier, more smaller book to digest if you can get hold of that. I think it's upstairs actually. Cities Within the Earth. It goes into the Illuminati and the
The reason why I
Bible.
mentioned it quickly, because it seems that I've learned that it seems that it's mentioned as a spell.
That's right. The spell
But
of
in
the
the book, it's
Leviathan.
mentioned as a sea beast or something that's meant to.
Because the beings that propagate this are your reptilians.
Okay.
They are made in the energy of Leviathan. You see what I'm saying?
It's metaphoric.
It's a metaphoric thing. That's
Okay,
right. Yeah.
And the last one. 144,000. Could that number possibly change?
Could that
More
change?
people waking up.
There's a reason for that specific number.
Okay.
Because that's how much can fit in the crafts that could be taken at 50 in each craft, make 144,000. When you add up 144, what does it make? Nine. Yeah, so those 9 ether beings is what is being come for, but there's 50 that fit in each craft. Yeah, does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay.
So,
yep.
So it could be more of us then.
No, it's just that's it. That's it. That's the number that they need.
Even though there's so much.
No, it's like
on a planet.
you know when you got a plate of food and that's enough for your belly, and then you want to be greedy. Yeah, that's enough. That's what we need, because it's all about the cells. Remember they said in the update, it's about the cells. They need a particular amount of people to repopulate another thing, and that's how much. Because right now, even on this planet, it's overpopulated. You see what I'm saying? They have to reduce the number because the Earth is unbalanced. One of the reasons for the fires as well, the master brought down a long time ago, they're trying to balance the planet, and they're trying to make certain buildings lighter in some places, etc., because the planet's unbalanced. And then there was another update where he explained that how you see Elon Musk and all these people going into space. The reason why they're up in space because they're drilling for pure gold and pure minerals to bring back here. But again, it's flown off the balance of the planet. Yeah, there's a lot going on. A lot going on. You know what I mean?
Thank you.
Just a quick one. You're just video on YouTube.
Is it a question?
Now it's pertaining to what we just said.
Could you tell? Could you because I'm getting some stairs here. So can we keep it to and express it later?
What they said, they were showing people were starting the fire,
Okay.
burning the woodlands,
Okay.
driving and burning, literally burning it.
Maybe they've been given orders by their overlords. Who knows? Okay. Right.
Jamal, before you just close down, can I just please say something?
Sure.
Okay, so I would just like to mention that for those of you that want to join Wu-Sabat, the Wu-Sabat community, please click on the link because the link will take you to the form. Now, if you complete the form and provide the ID, then you can then have access to the WhatsApp group, which is the Sabian admin WhatsApp group. And there you will be guided in terms of orientation, for example, dress code, the importance of it, understanding that people are recognized by their dress code. Our rituals, our healing rituals, our calling on our Salafu, our ancestors, our classes, our spiritual nights, and our calendar events, and more. So before you will gain access to that group, you will need to complete the form. And once that's seen, then you will be given access to the WhatsApp admin group. Tawatat sama.
Zamatat Lahe Balak. Okay, I'd like to say thank you, everyone. Seriously, you wouldn't make this class possible if it wasn't for your attendance and your participation. So again, a shock to everybody online, in the store, those who made the effort to get in here. And yeah, like the Zamatat said, join if you want to feel that way, come to our events, get to know who we are, get to know what Wu-Sabat's all about. Above all, as we've been saying, focus on the master being free, because your thoughts are more powerful than you realize. Okay. Wadu, wa